We're here in the Shiur of Chok Israel at Habanim Sephardic congregation in Valley Village, California, and we're going to do the Halakha Pesuka. This is from a Rambam. We continue on the Halachot that have to do with Talmud Torah, with laws of Torah study. En shoalim et harav, ksheikanes lemidrash ad shetityashev da'ato alav. When you want to ask your teacher, your Rabbi, a question, you have to wait until he comes in and sits down, and not just as he's walking in to ask him the question. Venatamid shoel, ksheikanes ad shetityashev v'yanuach. And the same thing for a student. He doesn't ask a question as he's walking in. He says first, like, come, sit down, and then ask the question. Ve'en shoalim shnayim ke'echad. And two people should not ask the question together. Take turns in asking questions. Ve'en shoalim et harav me'inyan acher. You're not allowed to ask the Rabbi from another subject that you're not involved in. Like sometimes you could be learning in one masechet, and one comes to ask you totally out of left field, somewhere unrelated. That we don't do. Ela me'oto ha'inyan shem asukin bo, but the question should be very pertinent, pertaining to the subject that is being learned at that time. Kedei shelo yitbayesh. And he says here in the Halakha Pesuka, there's another aspect here. Not only is it the right thing to do in terms of derech eretz, also when you ask from another subject that not at hand, the Rabbi may not be involved in that subject, and his whole mind is only involved in the subject at hand. He might get embarrassed that he doesn't have an answer for you. ויש לרב להטעות התלמידים בשאלותיו ובמעשה שעושה בפניהם. And the Rabbi is allowed to sort of trick his students with questions or with ma'asim or with actions that he does in front of them, כדי לחדדן, in order to sharpen their mind, וכדי שידע אם זוכרים ממה שלימדם, so that he can see if they really remember what and they understand what he's teaching them, or enam zochrim, or maybe they don't remember. In other words, you can say certain things that are obvious, or certain questions that would be for sure wrong, just to see that really are they involved and do they understand, and do they assimilate the material that is being taught. And it's not needed to say that he can ask them on another subject, she'en oskim bo, that they're not dealing with, kedei lezarezam. In order, the whole purpose would be here to make them quick-minded, to be able to respond, to be able to stay awake, to be able to, be involved in a way that is sharpening their mind and making them quicker in their thinking. En shoalim me'omad, en meshivin me'omad. You're not allowed to ask questions while standing. En meshivin me'omad. And also in terms of the etiquette here in Bet HaMidrash, you don't answer standing. Velo migavoa, and not from a place that is higher, like standing, let's say, on a chair or something like that. Or velo me'achok, and not from far. Velo me'achorei hazekenim, and not from behind the elders. We always give the kavod to the elders. Ve'en sho'alim harav, ela be'inyan she'en korim bo. And you don't ask the Rabbi only in the subjects that are being learned at that moment. Ve'en sho'alim ela mi'ir'ah. And the way to ask the question is mi'ir'ah, from awe, from a perspective of awe. Ve'lo yish'al be'inyan yoter mishalosh halachot. And once you ask the question, you're not allowed to keep asking more and more questions. You don't ask more than 3 halachot. 3 is enough, otherwise you'll be hijacking the whole shiur, Sometimes there are other people that want to continue to hear, and you have a guy that hijacks the whole attention, and he wants to keep asking and asking and asking. That's not proper. Shenayim sheshalu, what if 2 people ask the questions? Sha'al echad ke'inyan v'shechal echad shelo ke'inyan. One person asked about the subject being studied, and one asked about a subject that is not being studied, about something else. Niskakin le'ke'inyan. You answer the person who asked on the subject at hand. Ma'aseh v'she'eno ma'aseh. What about if a person asked a question about an actual ma'aseh, an incident, something that happened? V'she'eno ma'aseh. The other person asked about something that is maybe theoretical. Niskakin le'ma'aseh. You answer the one that is about an actual fact, an actual incident, actual case. Halakha or midrash. What if a person asks a question about halakha and the other person asks a question about a midrash? What is the midrash? Is the way that we derive the halachot from the psukim. So one is actual halakha lemaaseh, the other one midrash. How do we explain certain psukim? Niskakin halakha. You answer the halakha. Midrash ve'agada. The way that we explain the psukim ve'agada. Agada is certain subjects, let's say in the Gemara, where there are stories that he brought, certain lore, certain illustrations of certain points. Then niskakin la midrash. We would answer the question about the midrash. Agada ve'kal v'chomer. What about if it's agada or kal v'chomer? Kal v'chomer is when you compare two things, one light aspect and one more strict, and you say more so on the strict. There's certain ways that you understand in terms of the logical approach to certain aspects in the Gemara. Niskakin le kal v'chomer. You deal with the kal v'chomer. Kal v'chomer ou gzera shava. What if there were two aspects? One is the kal v'chomer. En français, on dit raison de plus. Raison de plus. Raison de plus. And in Latin, there is a word which is a fortiori. A fortiori, more so. More so that's the kal v'chomer. Gzera shava is when you have two contexts where the same word is mentioned in two contexts, which brings the two contexts to have a kind of a parallel relationship, and we can learn one from the other. So kal v'chomer gzera shava nizkakin lekal v'chomer. We give preference to the kal v'chomer. Hayu hashoalim shenaim echad chacham ve'echad talmid nizkakin lechacham. What if two people asked a question? One of them was a sage, was a scholar, and the other one was a talmid, a student. You give preference to the chacham. Talmid ve'am haaretz. What if was a talmid, a student, ve'am haaretz, a person who's unlearned, didn't learn at all? That's am haaretz. Nizkakin letalmid. You give preference to the student, to the talmid. Shneim hachamim, shneim talmidim, shneim am haaretz. What if both that asked the question are both hachamim, or both are talmidim students, or both are am haaretz? They're both unlearned person. Who do you give preference to? שאלו שניהם בשתי הלכות, או בשתי שטובות, או בשתי שאלות, or both of them asked on two halachot, each one on halakha, so there is no way to give preference based on the rules that we said just earlier here. Or בשתי שטובות, or about regarding two answers, or בשתי שאלות, regarding two questions, בשני מעשים, or two actual incidents. הרשות בידם תרגם מעתה. The reshut, the preference is given, the authority to decide, the prerogative is given to Targem. What is the Targem? The interpreter that we spoke about yesterday. Because the way they used to learn in Bet HaMidrash, the Rabbi would have a person who would explain more in details the answers of the Rabbi. So the interpreter, who also fielded the questions and gave them to the Rav, would choose which one to give preference to. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.